Boston Celtics have been on an absolute tear lately, with many speculating that this team could potentially return to the former glory of the 24 Celtics. But what if I was to tell you, yes you, that the Boston Celtics in 2024 is a completely, horribly and utterly wrong mistake for this Boston Celtics team going forward? As I start talking, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. This is not me downplaying the 24 Celtics. Boy, that team, yeah, number one, not only am I grateful for them actually delivering the long-awaited chip I've been waiting for. The years I've invested on this team, years. But man, like the hoops that team was playing was serious. Like they finished on a record of 64-18 for the season in the regular season and a dominant, emphatic playoff record of 17-3. Listen, I'm not trying to downplay them. This is arguably, in my opinion, in my eyes, top 7 most dominant / greatest teams in the history of the game. The biggest identity for this Boston Celtics team, in my opinion, was the offense, right? An offense finishing first in 3-pointers attempts and first in 3-pointers made. The 3-pointer was very pivotal and lethal to this Boston Celtics team's success. The dominance of this Celtics team was nuts. It was insane when you actually think about it. Can you imagine this team had the biggest winning differential in the entire league, like the entire league? Everyone, 29 of the other teams, that's how dominant this Celtics team is. And it's not the fact that they finished number 1 in win differential. It was the margin in which they finished in. They finished in with a total of 930 points, right? Winning margin, when you calculate in the winning margin of all their games in that season, the total, it tallies up to 903 points. The second highest team is the OKC, the Oklahoma Thunder, with 608. That's more than 300. That's an insane differential right there. And not to mention that this team topped the charts in offensive rating with 123.3 as their offensive rating number. So, yeah, like the dominance of this Celtics team, the 24 Celtics team, the offense, the superpower of that offense, like the offense that team was able to generate, it was insane. And it just further emphasized or stamped the approval on their dominance, right? But the team in question, the team that kind of makes me think about what Celtics team is the best template for this current Celtics roster, I just think about the 21-22 Celtics team. Like, if you ask me which team would I prefer as a Celtics fan, don't get twisted, I'll go with the 24. I think that 24 team is the better team. But in my heart, like, I don't know what you guys think. You Celtics fans out there, or like, even if you're neutral watching this, right? There was something about that. I think it was maybe like the togetherness or like the experience of the ups and downs or whatever it was, or the characters on that roster. But like there was an attachment that I formed with that team, like that team deserved that all. Like that team should have won it all, right? And it's like when I think about that team's identity, it had a strong identity on the defensive end, suffocating the opposition, right? And the man that spearheaded that was none other than Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. And his Defensive Player of the Year, if you ask me, in my eyes, is one of the most underrated achievements in the last couple 7, 8 to 10 years, right? The first guard to win the Defensive Player of the Year in over 30 years. 30 years is a long time, that's a long time, guys. Looking at that Defensive Player of the Year run, the steals Marcus Smart was getting, the way he was disturbing the opposition's offense, just a lot, that hustle he had, that dog he had, like that engine coupled up with the steals he was getting, the deflected passes he was doing. Like for a guard to win that Defensive Player of the Year is so difficult, guys. And the fact that he's the first one to win it since it was Isaiah Gary. It was flipping Gary Payton. Why the heck was Isaiah Thomas on my mind? Yeah, the fact that he was the first guard to win it in that long, man, it was an amazing achievement. I'm not gonna lie. Like seeing that, yeah, I was so happy for Smart. The stats also suggest that this Boston Celtics team, the 22 Boston Celtics team, was insane, was an absolute menace on the defensive end. A team that finished first in net block and third in defensive rebounding. We were packing shit out here. We were the kings of the paint whilst also being a nightmare on the perimeter. And a person who was successful to our paint defense in making the paint a fortress for the Celtics, or for a fortress for opposition teams to come in, making it hostile. Robert Williams, none other than Robert Williams, bro. Oh my dude, like the way you guys don't know, we could do for Robert Williams. I love Kate, don't get it twisted, but a Robert Williams in this team, a healthy Robert Williams, with a 22 Boston Celtics Robert Williams, coupled up with Tatum coming back and this version of Jaylen Brown, and the way this Celtics team is moving, we're going places. We're going finals, right? But let me not get too ahead of myself. But yeah, Robert Williams was very pivotal to the Celtics in the paint, and the stats kind of suggest that as well. First in block and third in defensive rebounding. So this team had very good interior defense. But man, now we're gonna get on to my favorite part of the defense in the 22. I think this was the favorite, or my favorite aspect of this team. The clams, clams, in your jerseys, up in your face, all of that nice stuff, you know. Bad for the opposition. Opposition don't like that, but as a defensive team, man, like that team was the definition of defense wins championships. I know we didn't win the championship, but that team on the defensive end, on the perimeter, and with this Celtics team, you know, Mr. Jaylen Brown, the energy shifter. This team, bear in mind, had a losing record, I think, before the All-Star, at the All-Star break, or we were 500 at the All-Star break, something like that. Jaylen Brown decides to tweet a message, right? And then next thing you know, energy literally shift. That's why I call Jaylen Brown the energy shifter. Energy literally shifted. I don't know what happened to that Celtics team, but from that point onwards, that version, or not even the Celtics organization in general, has kind of been on an upward trajectory, right? But yeah, back onto the clamps. For me, a game or a series that highlighted how good this Boston team was on the perimeter, or just defense in general, staying in front. Each person in the lineup, right, 1 to 5, staying in front of them, man. Brooklyn Nets, that Brooklyn Nets series, man. Guys, that Brooklyn series, I've never seen KD look like that. What Tatum done to KD in that series? Wow. Tatum was playing like KD owning money. Like, the way he was moving, I've never seen KD look like that before and after that series. Like, KD kind of had that aura around him where I was like, you can't block his shot, bro. In that series, that's the most times I've seen KD get his shot sent away. The most. Probably that, and alongside KD versus a Giannis matchup, right? But in a series in total, though, I don't think I've seen a KD shot get blocked as much as it did in that Boston Celtics versus Brooklyn Nets series. So yeah, that's just a series. And it's not just KD, like what the job we done on Kyrie as well to kind of nullify him as well. But yeah, that series just kind of highlights the perimeter defense, how great the perimeter defense of the 22 Celtics team was, right? And I'm not sure if you guys remember, under Ime Udoka, he had a strong emphasis for playing switch defense. And at the time, I was a big fan of this. That switch defense, in order to play it, you have to have every man in that starting lineup or in the rotation on the court to be comfortable with guarding multiple positions. And when you look at that Celtics team, 1 to 5, Marcus Smart was comfortable with guarding 1 to 3. You had Jaylen Brown comfortable with guarding 1 to 4. Tatum comfortable with guarding 1 to 4. And you have Robert Williams comfortable with guarding the opposition front court, right? And just being the presence he was on the paint. And even, I'm not going to lie, especially during the Warriors series, I know we lost. And outside of the Warriors series, I was seeing Robert Williams coming out, you know, onto the perimeter, trying to contest 3-point shots or outside shots and things like that. And it's just like the ability of that Boston Celtics team, what's the word I'm looking for? The variety? The flexibility, right? The flexibility of that Boston Celtics team kind of allowed them to play in that switch defense, that switch game plan that was causing so much teams to kind of struggle on offense, just suffocating the life out of opposition offense, right? And it was great to see on my end as a Celtics fan, right? Second half of the season form saw that Celtics team finish joint first in the NBA in defensive rating with 106, I believe. defensive rating, joint with the Golden State Warriors at the time, and coincidentally, ironically enough, those two teams headlined the NBA Finals, right? So yeah, like that Celtics team, I just think about the defense, like, oh, what we were doing to teams, yeah. But for me though, that again, I keep bringing it up, but that Brooklyn Nets series will always be like a highlight for me of just how insane. I've never seen Kyrie. I've seen Kyrie quite a couple of times, but KD, that's the first time I saw KD's invincibility on the offensive end just get removed. Like KD was a regular. He was a regular star in the league. That Celtics defense, we really put the seat in clamps, right? Again, to mention, I think when you look at all the other metrics, the Boston Celtics team on defense might actually be the standalone number one. But that's if you take into account other metrics. But you might also want to argue for that Boston Celtics team, you know. They did have a very, very poor start to the season, a very poor first half to the season. It was so poor. Going into the All-Star break, I was, around my mates. I was talking amongst them, we were talking about the playoffs, and playoffs was not on my mind, guys. We were like the 10th seed, so I doubt the play-in was a thing back then. Maybe it was 21-22 season. Maybe. But I was talking among my mates. I'm like, oh man, like we so cheese, we so bad. We were losing games we should not be losing. And I'm like, oh, this Celtics team is gonna be lottery. It's gonna be lottery because, not to mention, the season before that, we barely made it into the playoffs. Tatum had to drop a 60-point to get us into the playoffs. It was a COVID-ravaged season, an injury-ravaged season, to be fair. But that Celtics team was just horrible, right? So it's like, I'm here thinking to myself, this Celtics team, man. And then Jaylen Brown comes out with that tweet. Energy's about to shift. And then from there, the defense just kicked up. Defense became a new identity, right? Ime Udoka stamped his authority throughout that team. So, yeah, the resurgence of that team was just crazy. And again, man, that Celtics team will always have a special place in my heart. The reason why I suggest that the 24 Celtics team going forward may not even be the best template for this Celtics team, this Celtics roster, this Celtics squad currently constructed, and the 22 Celtics team might be the better example, I should say, is because the defensive weapons we have at our disposal at the moment in Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, Josh Minot, right? The athleticism, the increased or the added athleticism into this team has kind of led to Boston Celtics moving up the ranks in the defensive area, right? Like, these guys on the defensive end are absolute dogs, bro. These lot have motors on them. They've got engines. They are hustlers. And they're willing to, they have joy, they have pride in disturbing the opponent's night, and their ability to get into their man's jerseys, into their faces, deflecting passing lanes or cutting passing lanes, being a menace on the perimeter, has kind of led to us being second in steals, fourth in blocks, and Boston Celtics having the lowest turnover percentage in the league. Not to mention the current defensive weapons we have at our disposal in previous seasons in Jaylen Brown, who, in my opinion, on his day, like Jason Tatum, those two guys, on their day, they are all NBA defensive players. Derek White as well as an all-defensive NBA player, or all-team NBA defensive player. So these three guys, defensive weapons that are adding onto the emergence or the arrivals of Jordan Walsh, Derek White, Jordan Walsh and Derek White, sorry. They're both at the Baldy. Shout out to Illuminati. But Jordan Walsh, Josh Minor, and Hugo Gonzalez, just adding on to that, it feels like the Celtics have a lot of cards that they could play in different scenarios, in different situations, that also makes them even more dangerous in a playoff series. That aspect that I mentioned earlier about the Celtics having a starting lineup or having a rotation on the court of each man being flexible to guard or play multiple positions, with this current roster also adding Tatum back into the play, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be much surprise to me if Joe Mazzulla decides he wants to go back to a 21-22 template where it was just switch defense. Because bear in mind, yes, he wasn't a manager, but he was an assistant manager under Ime Udoka. So he's been a part of that regime. He's been a part of the know-how. So that's just a thing to keep an eye on, in my opinion, you guys. Things into account. If we do decide to go back to a 24 Boston Celtics template, it wouldn't really be the worst thing in the world. Because at the moment, as things currently stand, Boston Celtics team, this Boston Celtics roster, can you imagine with all the subtractions, all the outgoings we've had during the summer, all the change we've had, all the commotions and all the issues we've had with our star player Jason Tatum being out for the season, or what it was announced to be or assumed to be, right? I know he's coming back. We probably know or expect him to be back around sometime in around March, April times, you know. But with Tatum being out, all of that, this Boston Celtics team at the moment is 4th ranked offensively in the league. And to add to that fact, right? To add to the fact that this team is also 1st in 3-pointers made and 3rd in 3-pointers attempt. So this Celtics team is taking a lot of threes and we're making a lot of threes, yeah? We all know that was 2024, that 2023. We all know that 2023 to 2024 Boston Celtics team was just shooting lights out, you know, with Drew Holidays and the Pingas of the world and the Jason and the Derek White and the even Pritchard on the bench and Al Horford and Sam Hauser, you know, just shooting, just lights out. We all know that Celtics team was doing that, but in recent weeks, or in recent games I should say, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, we shot the lights out against the Lakers, lights out against the Toronto Raptors. We've been shooting the ball pretty well, even in the next game as well. So it feels like that DNA of the 24 Celtics team where Mazzulla is just a psychopath with the threes. He kind of sees the NBA or basketball as a maths game, essentially. The three is so superior to the two. Let's just take the threes. You know, that's just how we generate our offense. It seems like that kind of DNA is still intact in this team. We just kind of need the maybe even more increased reps with the game plan, or potentially just better players, or make trades to bring in players that could better execute that game plan, right? But it feels like the DNA of that 24 Celtics team is still here, is still presently constructed in this roster. That same 3-point mentality is still here. So it wouldn't really be too crazy, if you ask me, for the Celtics team to go back to the 24 template. It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. But yeah, guys, I just made this video, you know, because this thought was lingering on my mind. 22 Celtics team, the defense that team is playing, and the weapons we have at our disposal with the emergence of our new players, the template of that 22 Celtics team might actually be better equipped for this current roster. And if we do choose to use that template with Tatum also coming back, and we use that in the playoffs, do you guys think if we go back to a defensive orientated or a defensive identity, that it will be better for this team on the long run than rather than the 3-point generating offense that we've been accustomed to over the last 2-3 years under Joe Mazzulla, right? You guys let me know. But this is just a video I just made in the spur of the moment. It's the first time, or it's the first kind of video I've made like this. So I feel like, you know, quality ain't gonna be up there, production ain't gonna be up there. But yeah, man, you guys let me know how you guys find this. Let me know on what areas I can do or look at to improve. If you guys spot any areas of weakness, I don't know, let me know. Because again, this is my first time of making a video like this. Usually I'm just on the reactions or match reviews, right?